Alright, tutorial video. What's good, you degenerates? So, I hear you want to do this VTuber thing. Not that I would know anything about that, but you have no software and no clue what you're doing. Well, I am here to tell you how. Hopefully. I assume it's going to be good by the end of this. I haven't seen the final product at the time of filming. Anyway, I'm going to show you how to do everything for free using free software, with the one caveat of you might want to pay someone else to make the model if you never have done it before, or if you don't want to learn how to do it, because it does take a lot of time to learn. But in theory, if you do learn how to do that, you can do everything completely for free yourself. So with that, let's get started. So for the model, the best options are either Vroid Studio, which is specifically for making VTuber models, or Blender, which is a free 3D modeling tool that, while very intimidating, is extremely versatile and powerful and can do seemingly anything. Like, no joke, there are people who edit YouTube videos in this thing. It's insane. For this, however, we're going to go with the easier option of using Vroid Studio, since it is specifically for what we're going to use it for. If you're on Windows, there's going to be a link down below in the description in order to download the file, and you're basically done after you extract the zip folder into a new folder where you want it to live. That's it. Now, if you're using Linux, it's a little bit more work, but it's completely doable even if you're a novice. So what we're going to do first is we're going to bring up our search engine. We're going to look for Vroid Studio. And it should be one of the first results that show up. Yep, right here, vroid.com/en/studio. I'm gonna click the download button. There we go. Alright, and we're gonna download the zip archive, the 64-bit. And we are going to save file. And I'm just gonna have it in programs. I have a specific folder for downloading zip folders. And we're gonna let that download. Alright, once you have this downloaded, we are going to go ahead and open up the folder that it's in. And we can close out of Firefox now. And I'm gonna move it right here for now. There we go. I'm just gonna keep it there. I'm gonna go into where I want the program to live. Now I'm gonna want this to live in a folder in my folder programs, because I have a dedicated folder for it. Now the way that you're gonna have to extract this is a little different. So what you're going to have to do is, wherever you are, you're going to have to right click, and then, or you actually, there's another way you can do it, which is to open a terminal. So you can either find it in the menu, or you can hit the meta key and T, which is going to be the Windows key on a Windows keyboard, or the command key on a Mac keyboard. Or Control Alt T, depends on which distribution you're using. But either way, open up a terminal, and you're going to type in cd, and you're going to type your download location. So once you've got your file location, so mine is located at cd, so it's going to be home directory. I'm not clicked on the terminal. It's going to be home directory, which is what the little squiggle is for, /desktop. And now we are in the desktop on the terminal. So then you're going to type in the command unzip, and then the name of your zip folder. The reason that you have to do it like this is the way that this is packaged. Right click, copy. The way this is packaged is that it makes directories. If you extract it using a graphical interface extractor, something like Arch or something, or Arch, not Arch. Arch is a Linux distribution. Then you will not make the directories. Everything will be named wrong. It won't work. It's really weird. I don't know why it has to be done this way. I just know that this is the only way to get it to work. So we're going to insert the name and then type .zip. And you want to put it around in quotes or single quotes. Either one will work, just in case there's ever a space in it. And then we're going to hit enter. And that automatically creates everything in the proper directories with the proper names. I don't know why the one where you double click and then drag it out doesn't do that, but it doesn't. So now I'm going to move this to right here. Move here. And there we go. Now I have, if I open it up, we've got everything done correctly. And now it's ready to go for the next step. The next step of what we're going to do is to run this right here through Wine. And the way that we do that is through a little program called Lutris. If you don't already have Lutris, you can either copy and paste the terminal command down below, which is going to be for Ubuntu-based distributions, or you can open your software manager. For me, it is the Pop Shop, as I'm on Pop OS, and you can just click the install button from there. If you have something like Arch or Manjaro, you can probably get it from the Arch user repository. You'll have to look up what the command is for that. It's a very common program. You could even go to the website and download a .deb or .rpm file or something. Though honestly, I wouldn't bother with that one if you could find it in your software center. That is the easiest way to do it. So, quick little thing before we keep going. I forgot a few more commands that you're going to need to run before you continue on with this point, and those commands are as followed: sudo apt install wine, sudo apt install wine64, and sudo apt install wine tricks. You will need these beforehand. I forgot to mention them. And with that, we can go on and continue with the tutorial. What we're going to do, so we're going to open up Lutris. So you can see right here, I've got some other stuff, like I've got Photoshop, I've got Snaz, which is a countdown timer I use for my streams. I've got VSeeFace, which we will be getting back to in a minute. And I've got like some games like Fate Stay Night. So what you're going to want to do is hit this button right here, the little plus button. We're going to add game. We're going to name this whatever we want. So this is going to be Vroid Studio. I actually want to put a space in there. And next, if you don't have it already, right here where it says runner, you're going to want to click install runners. And in this menu, you want to scroll down until you see wine. And there's going to be an install button like this next to it if you don't already have it. Otherwise, this will be manage versions and configure the runner. So I'm going to pull up the versions. You're going to want, at the very least, this newest one, which at the time of filming is Lutris 5.7-11. If there is a newer version out, I would recommend downloading the newest one as well as this version that you're seeing right here. I go ahead and download all the way back to 5.0 just to have some options. You don't need to do that. You only need to worry about the newest one or this version specifically. So once that's installed, you're going to hit OK. You're going to close that out. You're going to select a runner from the list, and you're going to choose Wine runs Windows games. Under the game options, we're going to find the executable. So this is where your location is very important. If you change where this exe file is located, you will have to go into these options and change this path. So for me, it is in Home, Programs, Vroid Studio, Studio.exe. And there we go. Wine prefix, we are going to put the following. This is the shortcut for home, /.wine. Prefix architecture, leave default. Runner options, leave it all default. Just double check that your wine version is selected. It should be the default. And leave everything system options as the default. You can click save. And with that, you should be good to go. Now let's make sure it works. And there we go, we have Vroid Studio. So now, you can make your own avatars. Now if you're wanting to open a project in Vroid Studio, the way you're going to do that is going to be by putting the project file in. You go back to your home directory. There will be a hidden file that says .wine, which will be in here. You'll go to your C drive, program file, nope, not program files, program files x86, no, program, users, the username, and I believe under the documents, yes, documents, Vroid avatars. This is where you will put any project files so that you can open them in the program in order to edit them after the fact. A little bit of a weird placement, but once you figure out where it is, it's pretty easy. You can also just write down, or copy and paste the location to a text file so you can find it easily. But with that, we are done with getting VRoid Studio running. Alright, so the next thing we have to do is, now that we have a model, we need our face tracker, what I'm using so that I can move around and the model follows me. Now, if you're on Windows, what I'm going to recommend is VSeeFace. It is fantastic, and it's completely free as well. You're going to download it from the link below, or you can go to the GitHub if you search it on Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever you use. Maybe you use Bing, please don't Bing. But yeah, download it there. Give the dev, Miliana, your thanks because she is fantastic and has made a wonderful program that I absolutely love and I'm using right now. Windows, you're ready to go. Now, Linux, you are going to have two options. There is an completely open source tracker that's made with Unity that is one of the most complicated and confusing things I've ever read, and I've yet to figure out how to put it up. Or you can also use VSeeFace and Wine, which is what I'm going to recommend. So basically, you're going to do the same thing as you did with VRoid Studios, but if I open my options settings, there's a slight difference. That being, for your Wine prefix, you're going to type Wine64 instead of just Wine. The same thing, so you got your home directory shortcut, which is the little squiggle key right under escape, /.wine64, prefix architecture, you're going to pick 64 bits. And the last change is going to be to arguments. We're going to type --background-color space hashtag and then a HTML color code. The one I have right here, 00FF00, is for your green and nothing else. This will allow you to chroma key it later and your recording software or your video editing software. Either one, I'm using OBS, so I'm doing it live, or you can do it after the fact. But other than that, it's going to be exactly the same as how you installed VRoid Studio. Now, if you're on Linux, there is another thing you will need. That is a tracker. Sounds complicated. It's really not. It's just a little weird and maybe unfamiliar if you're coming from Windows and are new to Linux. And the tracker is run completely in the terminal. Yeah, strange. Essentially, the way it works is that it takes the camera, it looks at what the camera's looking at, it assigns each part of your face a value of how sure it is of what you're doing, and then it sends that information to VSeeFace. It's weird, but it works. Now, the way you're going to install that is going to be a little bit more complicated. I have a full written tutorial on how to get that downloaded and installed, which will be linked below. You can go ahead and download that, and you can follow those instructions to get it installed and set up. Once it is set up, I will tell you that there is a certain order you need to do things whenever you are going to do your VTubing recording. The first thing you will need to do is always activate the tracker first before you open anything else. Computers, Linux, Windows, and Mac, all of them, the way they work is that only one thing can use the camera at a time. I'm not entirely sure why this is the case, but that's just how it is. The way that this tracker works is that it needs to see your camera. So it needs to be the first thing you run. So you're just going to open a terminal and run the commands. I would show you, but they're already running, so there would really be no point. And then you can go ahead and open VSeeFace and then OBS and then whatever else you're using. But the next thing we're going to show you is how to set up VSeeFace. Setup for VSeeFace will be almost the same on Windows and Linux once the Linux users get Lutris set up. If you're on Linux, go ahead and open your terminal and start the face tracker now so you can go ahead and have that running. If you're on Windows, just double click and open VSeeFace, you're good, and then you can just keep going. So we're going and starting this up, except that VSeeFace is actually already running. So here it is. You can see me right here. And all of my glory. I've actually got the settings hidden. So when you're on this menu, you will actually see right here where you can choose your camera and your microphone. Make sure you have your microphone selected correctly. And for the camera, on Linux, you're going to select network tracking. And after that, you're good. You can go ahead and select your avatar and you'll be ready to go. And you'll be back to here. You're going to go ahead and click this button down in the corner to hide the options, and then spacebar to hide that button. And I can capture it and do whatever you want. Now you can kind of move them around by holding the Alt key, or if you're on Linux, Control and Alt, because Alt tends to let you move windows around on most distributions. at least that I've used. Yeah, you can do a lot of cool stuff with this program, and I really like it. Now, to record your avatar, you'll need the program OBS Studios. Windows users can also use XSplit, but that's a paid program, or you can use Streamlabs OBS, but using standard OBS Studio will let you install plugins later, such as a virtual webcam, so you can use your OBS as a webcam source. Really cool, though not necessary in any way, shape, or form. So, on Linux, if you have an Ubuntu-based distro, you're going to run the following command in order to install: sudo apt install obs-studio. Or you can go to the website and download the .deb file or the GitHub. Windows users, just go to the website, download the exe, you're done. You've got it easy. Once you have OBS installed, we'll now add our VTuber to it. So I am actually going to reveal... Oh no! What? It's an infinite thing. So no, we're going to go to a new scene. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and add Now, if you're on Windows, you're going to want to do a gain capture. The reason for this is that by default, VSeeFace shows a transparent background. Windows can capture that with the gain capture, so you'll be good to go with that capture. If you're on Linux, you're going to want to do a standard window capture, and you're going to name it whatever you want, and you're going to want to select VSeeFace. Okay. Once you have that, if you are on Linux, you're going to want to right-click it and choose Filters. And you're going to want to add, and you're going to want to add the chroma key. Not the color key, but the chroma key. Chroma key is better for moving stuff. Now, I've already got it right here. I am just using the preset for green. Depending on what color you set your background to, you're going to want to change that. You can do green, blue, magenta, or a custom color. Like, for example, if your character has green hair, you probably don't want a green background, or else you'll remove your hair as well. That would be a good time to use, like, a blue, or a, like, cyan if it's, like, something that's going to blend too much with blue and you need it to be lighter, or magenta. Usually between green, blue, and magenta, you'll find one of those colors will work best. And with that, you can go ahead and mess around with these settings. I've got them tweaked to how I like it. And you'll be good to go. You just close, and now your character will have no background. And one of the last things you'll need, is actually second to last thing, is a video editor if you were going to make video content on YouTube that's not live streams. What I'm going to say for that is to use Kdenlive, which is a free video editor, 100% free. It works very similarly to Vegas Pro, if you've ever used that, which is what I would typically use on Windows. I bought that on Steam, and I have it on Windows. It's still a great editor, still probably my favorite one, though I am slowly trying to transition over to Kdenlive because it is a free one, so that I can do more stuff like this, where I show you how to do stuff for free, how to edit stuff for free, because I'm going to be making more of these. And in fact, I am actually recording this or editing this in Kdenlive right now. Now, the way you're going to install Kdenlive is on Windows. You're going to download the exe. I'll have linked below. If you are on Linux, the command for Ubuntu is sudo apt install Kdenlive. That's Kdenlive. It will be linked below as well, or typed below as well. Or it'll be right here on the screen. Another thing you should know, I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but there will be a link to the script for this video so you can have written instructions as well if you need to ever redo all this. Should have mentioned that at the beginning, actually. Now, if we're running a little tight on time, this video is going to be really, really long, so I'll let you look around on YouTube and stuff for videos on how to edit in Kdenlive. If you've used Vegas Pro, it used to be I almost said Sony Vegas because that's what it used to be called, and that's what it was called when I was originally using it. If you're used to Vegas Pro, a lot of the things are very similar, just slightly renamed, such as you can drag stuff around, you can right-click split, and then you can do fades by dragging from the top corner and stuff like that. So those things may feel a little familiar. The effects will be a little bit different, so just watch some tutorial videos, see how to get used to it. Won't be hard by the end of it. It's not a horrible transition from Vegas Pro. If you're coming from Premiere, it is very different, unfortunately. You may want to look into the Olive video editor, which is a bit more like Premiere. It's based off that same style. However, it is still kind of in beta, so take that with a grain of salt. Alright, we are almost done. The last bit is that for your thumbnails, you're going to want a decently powerful image editor. So for that, I'm going to recommend GIMP. GIMP is a completely free alternative to Photoshop that has a lot of the same tools. Now, if you're on Windows, you can also use the tool Paint.net, which is a fantastic program that I love for quick little edits when I'm on Windows. However, it's not nearly as powerful as GIMP, unfortunately. So you install GIMP from the link below, and for Linux, you install it either from the website, Software Center, GitHub, whatever, or the terminal link, command linked below, which is sudo apt install GIMP. Now to show you how to use GIMP, I'll show you making this video's thumbnail. Alright, so I actually got the audio wrong on this, so I'm having to redo it as I'm watching it back. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm making a new image that's 1920 by 1080, so it is the right scale. We'll make it smaller later. And then I'm going to start coloring in the background as soon as I find a color I like. I'm going for a light blue here. There it is. And once I have that color selected, I am going to start off by doing it wrong and trying to make a grid of the wrong color on a black background. That's wrong. I realize I need to color in the background, and then I need to make the grid black. However, I still have the wrong foreground color selected, so the grid it tries to make is the same color. I realize that's wrong. I flip my colors around, and now I make the grid. Now with the grid, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the vertical lines by unlinking the line height and width and just making the line height nothing and the line width all the way. And then I'm going to adjust the size so I find a distance between them that I like, which is going to be that. That's good. And now I'm going to go to filters, render, and I'm going to, as soon as I distort, and then I'm looking for kaleidoscope. Now this, because I did all vertical lines, it's going to make this really cool polygon shape that just spirals outwards, which I really like. For some reason, one of them's thicker than the other, so I just shrink it until I get that. Now I'm going to do pinch and twirl, so I can make a little swirly design. That is what I was originally going for. I'm going to extend it all the way to the edge, or mostly to the edge. Yeah, the radius goes up all the way to the edge, and now that makes that really weird, trippy sort of background that's really interesting to look at and really eye-catching, which is what you want for a thumbnail. Next, I'm going to, as soon as I find the button, I'm going to open up a file, and I have a pre-made file with my avatar that has all my expressions. I can go through them all. However, you can notice there's a slight green background. I didn't remove the background correctly, so I'm going to have to erase that in just a second. But I'm going to use that, and I'm going to find an emotion face that I like. Once I find that, I'm going to use the Magic Select tool to select it. Here I am, going through and erasing all the backgrounds that were selected incorrectly. Alright, there we go. Now I've got the background removed. I'm going to find the expression I like, which will be this joy face expression in VSeeFace. I'm going to Control-C to copy the base file, and then Control-V, and then right-click on it to paste to a new layer. I'm going to go back to the other image, and I'm going to once again copy and then paste that layer, and then I'm going to right-click on the layer that I pasted on and do two new layer. And then I'm going to merge those layers together so I have it in one image. I can position it where I wanted with the drag tool. You're going to want to click and drag and hold on the different tools so you can see what is where. It's a little bit of a weird layout, so that was the scale tool I just used to rescale it, which is underneath the, I forget the name of the tool. But you can see my GIMP layout is the default layout, so it should be simple for you to find where I'm clicking, save for layers because I'm covering it. And I'm going to then use this image of VSeeFace that I have saved and downloaded from the website, and I'm going to throw those on there. They are located in my pictures folder as soon as past me can find them. There it goes. I'm just going to click and drag that on there, and then I'm going to use the scale tool to make it bigger. Cool. There we go, and now I'm going to move it around and position it where I want. Now I'm going to look up on here, I'm going to try to find the GIMP logo, preferably with no background. And there we go, I found one without a background very quickly. I'm just going to right-click copy, I'm not going to bother saving it. and then I'm just going to do Control V to paste it. And now I'm going to position it around, and then I'm going to go, once again, go back to the scale tool. After I have pasted it to a new layer. And scale it down. Give it to the right size, position it around, and somewhere where I think it looks good, which is right there. Now I'm going to find the OBS logo. So OBS Studio logo, I forget a space right there. Add that in real quick. And I'm trying to find one without a background. I got lucky, first result. Right-click copy, and Control V paste. And once again, we're going to go back to the scale tool, we're going to scale it down, I'm going to position it in a good position. Now I'm actually going to move it behind the GIMP logo layer, because I think that looks nicer. And now we've got essentially our thumbnail. So what I'm going to do here is actually a little trick I like to do, and I kind of hate that I'm covering it so you can't see this. I'm going to make a duplicate of each one of those logo layers by just right-clicking the layer and then clicking duplicate. Oh, before that, I'm going to make a text layer. So I'm going to click the text. I'm going to choose the font I like, which is an open source font I found, so it's fine to use for commercial purposes, which is what I prefer to have. I try to avoid having any fonts that would normally require a licensing to use commercially, because I would end up using them in something commercially and forgetting that I need to pay for a license, and that would be all sorts of legal trouble. So I try to keep only 100% free fonts on my computer if possible. The only exception being Microsoft fonts for a couple, like if I get a Word document that had used Microsoft fonts. But I know which ones those are, so I can easily avoid using those. So yeah, I typed out all three, and now I'm going to duplicate that layer. And with that layer, after I edit the size and such, I'm going to adjust it, position it where I like. Now I'm going to, what else am I going to do here? Yep, here it is. Now I'm going to duplicate that layer. I'm duplicating all three of the logo layers. I'm moving them next to each other, and I'm merging the three logos together into one layer. But I still have all three of them separately in duplicate layers in case I ever want to edit them again. But now they're merged into one layer, and I can position and scale them all together. I'm going to make them a little bit smaller, move them a little higher up, and over some. Yeah, that looks good. I'm going to scale them up a little bit more because I made them a bit too small. And now I'm going to go back to the font. I'm going to duplicate it. Next, I'm going to rotate. So I clicked and dragged on the scale tool and chose rotate. And now I can angle it a little bit. This will turn it from a text layer to a normal layer for an image file though, so you won't be able to edit the text after you have angled it. So now I'm going to use the magic select to select everywhere. Another thing you could do real quick would be to go to layer and then layer boundaries to image size, and then you won't have to do what I'm doing right now, which is to select all the outside parts. Do that beforehand, then magic select everything, and then hold shift to select inside the holes, and then select invert selection. And then you want to get rid of this outside section just because it's easier. If you do layer boundary to the size of the image, it's not a problem. I just forgot to do that. And so I'm doing it the long way. So you can see, this is how you do it the long way. So you literally hold control to deselect these outside areas that you don't want to have accidentally selected. And now you want to go and select black for your background. You want to go to your other layer that you've made, to a new layer that you have underneath your text layer. And you want to grow your selection by an amount and then color it in. I colored it in first and forgot that I need to grow it, so I'm going to grow it by a couple pixels and then color it in. So now you have that, and now when you re-reveal your original layer, you've got a slight border around it. You can do the same thing and then just move the layer underneath in order to get a drop shadow, and you can change the opacity and mess with that. But that is how you will edit a thumbnail in GIMP. And with that, we are done. You can now do any VTuber related content you want on either Windows or Linux, and it's all for free. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, or you found it helpful more likely. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe button, and get notified for when new videos get posted. You can check me out live on Twitch on twitch.tv/itsrogueren. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/itsrogueren. And also make sure if you subscribe to hit the bell because, surprise, YouTube makes it extra difficult to get notified because apparently subscribing isn't enough. So with that, I will see you all next time. Peace out.